I read this years ago and I'm like, what are they thinking? He did all these signs and wonders. Why would they not trust him? Well, he does all that stuff for you. What do you not trust him? Why don't you trust him? Show of hands real quick. Has Yah done any miracles in your life? Every hand. He's done signs and wonders. So why don't you trust him? There's times when you don't trust him. One of the people brought out the idea that, they left with a high hand. They left like, we're leaving Egypt. Huh. Didn't take long till they were like, they're gonna kill us. And that, see, you feel great and you believe when he does these wonderful things for you. He does these miracles and does these wonders. But then what happens when he lets things go a little sideways and you have your baptism of fire? Look, if you're called, if you believe that Abba's called you, he's popped your bubble, you're now seeing and receiving and hearing and experiencing truth, then why would you think that he did all that just to kill you? Because some of you start whining like, well, ever since I came into this, my life has been terrible. Your life was terrible before. Get over it. Come on, who are you lying to? Your life was so great before? Not if you're being honest. And so why are you blaming him? Don't be blaming him. Your life, you were just, you know what it is? You were used to the bad it was before. You were comfortable in the uncomfortable way your life was. So now you got this new thing and you're not used to it. And so here these people, they're already like, well, yeah, it's exactly like you said, but you forgot to tell us about the giants and the walls and the people are strong. Yah just destroyed Egypt. Really? You worried about all this? And he just parted the sea for you. What's the problem? What more? See, this is what I want for all of us. If we're going to hear the words good and trustworthy, serve him, or good, the trustworthy part, what's he got to trust you with first? Trusting him. He's got to trust that you will trust him. There may be too many words trust in the same sentence. But can he trust you to trust him? Because he is trustworthy. We talked about that last week, right? Or last teaching, a couple of days ago. He is trustworthy and true. But can he trust you to trust him? We are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than us. The message for all of you here is often he's going to put you in a position where it looks like the enemy is stronger. And in reality, they may be. But also in reality, they don't have him, you do. Okay? It depends on what you're using to measure stronger. Was Goliath stronger than David? Oh, you bet he was. He was gigantic compared to David. Literally, right? But David was stronger. Because David was in line with his creator and had the backing of the Father, right? But if we're going to look at things from a physical point of view, yeah, David was definitely not as strong as Goliath. That's why Goliath laughed at him. It's like, kidding me? You send the scrawny kid out here? And he wasn't probably that scrawny, but still, he wasn't a big soldier. The better Hebrew there is slanderous. They slandered the Almighty by basically casting aspersions on what he had said to do. Like Yahweh sent them to do something they couldn't do. Can you see that's what they were doing? They're basically making it seem like they're convinced that Yahweh sent them to do something they could not do. You look at them and you're thinking, why would you do that? But he looks at you, why do you do that? Why do you act like he sent you to do something you can't do? How many months, every new moon, don't I always tell you guys, you can do it from right here where you're starting? Why? Because that's my belief. My belief is that he wouldn't call you to something you can't do. So why would you ever act like you can't do something he called you to do? But sometimes you start to have doubt and fear, and you panic. Do you think that Joshua and Caleb, it only mentions Caleb at this point, but Joshua we sees the same thing. Do you think Caleb saw the Anakim and the walls and all that stuff? Of course he did. He just said, this is going to be kind of cool to see how it works. I believe that's kind of what he did. He doesn't say it in here, but I'm sure. He was like, man, this is going to be great. I have no idea how this is going to work. We are so overmatched. But we have him. So he was excited. Let's go. I want to see how this works. So the more jacked up your situation gets and the more messed up it is, and the more you don't know what to do, get excited. Man, I don't know. It's going to be amazing. Right? Hasn't it been? Think of all the ones that you've been through that it's already played out. Then why do you then next time forget all that? And you go through that panic all over again. 2 million. All right? 2 to 3 million Israelites. Think about it. 600,000 men over 20. Figure out how many women, children, and everybody under 20. That's got to be at least 2 to 3 million people. Okay? And 10 guys throw the whole thing into a tailspin. Doesn't take a lot to wreck a congregation or to wreck any kind of group because they start running their mouth. The problem is not them. The problem is you listening to them. Okay? These 10 had no power to really do anything if people wouldn't listen to them. Right? So you guys have a role to play. Don't listen. Why do you listen? You know why you listen sometimes? Because there's a little voice in the back of your head doubting that you believed what you initially believed. The first voice that told you you could make it, you start to doubt that. The first voice that said, hey, this is the anointed appointed I'm supposed to be under, then you doubt that. You know what? I'm going to take this a step before that. Don't be afraid of the people inside the body. Because this started with the 10 inside. They feared what they said and their influence and their power. Then he said, because they were afraid of what was outside. And that's a failure of leadership, because these were supposed to be men of leadership that were sent, the 12 that were sent to represent the 12 tribes. Men of respect, men of reputation, losers. They showed the truth. You know what? When you go back to the baptism of fire teaching, right? The trials are what? They're the fires that show what's really there. These men had great reputations, but they hadn't been tested. So these are not just anybody's. You believe it or you don't. And then you're like, well, what makes you think you are? Nothing. I mean, I think through my experience that I might be one of these guys. I know I am. But you, I don't have to convince you. You got to convince you. You got to ask him to convince you whether I'm one of these or not. But if I am, I believe these guys, when you find them, fit into this stuff we were just reading in Numbers. In other words, and in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy mentions the idea of the mouth or the voice. I mean, if you're sitting on waiting to hear him mouth as it says, panim panim with Moses, you're waiting for him to speak in your own head, go back to one of your Christian denominations where you think you're hearing voices in your head. Okay? That's not the structure from here. He anoints and appoints people to speak his words. On some level, you get excited about wanting truth. Right? Every one of you ended up in this journey at some point because you wanted the truth, right? You got tired of being lied to, you discovered you'd been lied to, so you wanted to find the truth. But was your heart prepared to receive it? Some of you, the answer is not exactly, because you struggle in the receiving part, even though it's what you wanted. You wanted it, though, but can you receive it? It says that it can only be received by a heart that's prepared. So what does prepared mean? You got to be ready for, it could be any form it comes in, shouldn't matter. That you got to be prepared for that. I can take it in whatever form it comes. I don't care how palatable it is. In other words, you have to be prepared. See, if you're only prepared for it to come in the form you want, you're not prepared. I want it to look like this, and this, and if it's not, well, I'm not ready for it. And then it comes and it's not like you wanted it, and now you don't know what to do with it.